So it was about 2 months before my husband and I got engaged. And this lady that had been married for probably about 20 years came up to me and said, "This is the marriage advice that I would give you. There once was this wife who decided, I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna watch my husband paint." So she got a lawn chair, she went outside, she sat down on the lawn chair and she started watching her husband paint the house. Well, a couple of minutes went by and her husband looked at her and thought, that's kind of strange. She's not talking. He just kind of smiled at her and shrugged, a little bit confused, and she kind of smiled back and he went on to painting. Well, 10 minutes passed and he turned around and looked and she was still there sitting in the lawn chair. She didn't have a book, she hadn't said a word, and he kind of smiled and looked a little bit confused, but he kept on painting. Well, finally, half an hour passed and he turned and he looked at her. She still hadn't said a word. She was still watching him. And he said, "I don't know what you're doing, but I sure do like it." Fast forward now, it has been about 4 years, or a little bit more since I first heard that story. And over this last winter, my husband and I started to read a marriage book called Love and Respect. After that, we actually had a couple from our church host the Love and Respect videos, and a whole bunch of us went through it, and it was so good. And I think it's just been over the last maybe 6 months or so that I've started to realize the incredible importance of being your husband's friend. So that is what I'm going to be talking about today in this part 2 of the marriage series that I am creating. So if you haven't seen part 1, I'll link it down below. Okay, so everything that I'm going to be sharing today, talking about being your husband's friend, either has come from my husband himself, has come from the Love and Respect books and videos, or has come from another marriage podcast that I really enjoy and would highly recommend. Okay, so now jumping in, to start off with, I wanted to give a little story. In the book Love and Respect, Dr. Emerson Eggerichs describes how he's driving in this vehicle with 5 other guys, I think, and he turns around and he says to them, "Do your wives love you?" All the guys said pretty much instantly, "Yeah, my wife loves me." He said, "Okay, well, I want to ask you a second question. Do your wives like you?" Not one single guy in that car said, "Yes, my wife likes me." They said, "Nah, I don't really think she likes me. She loves me, but I don't think she likes me." And this really challenges myself, and I stopped to think, could my husband honestly, genuinely say without hesitation, not only does my wife love me, but my wife likes me? So that's what I'm going to be talking about with this whole idea of being your husband's friend, being your husband's companion, being your husband's buddy, and being his playmate. Because I did not realize until reading this book and watching the videos just how really important that this is to our husbands, and how this is a massive way that we can make them feel loved, that we can make them feel actually liked, and that we can be better wives to them. And so this is a huge area I'm trying to grow in, and I'm going to be sharing with you several practical ways that I'm trying to grow in this area of just being my husband's friend. Okay, so my number 1 tip that I'm going to be sharing is smile. It sounds so simple, it sounds so easy, but let me tell you, one of the best gifts my husband can ever give me that I cannot get enough of is sometimes I'll be doing something, or I'll turn and I'll look at my husband and he'll just like smile, this instantaneous, like uncontrollable beaming smile at me. And there is nothing in the world that makes me feel so good or so loved or so much like I'm enough as when I see my husband just have this joy, this genuine joy in his face when he looks at me. And so I think smiling at your husband is so important. You know, I think about when you're dating. You're constantly smiling, you're laughing at his jokes, you're looking with this look of admiration and awe and excitement at whatever it is that he's sharing with you, or he's doing for you, or he's telling you about. And it's so easy, I think, after marriage to kind of start to take some of those things for granted and to lose that smile, and instead maybe it to turn into this permanent frown or this permanent look of disappointment in your spouse. So a super easy thing that I'm trying to do and really keep in my mental focus is just to smile at my husband. Smile with admiration. Smile when he tells a joke. smile with that same joy that I had for him when we were dating and express my love for him in that simple, easy type of way. Number 2 is to do what you did when you were dating. For myself, my husband and I did quite a bit of dirt biking when we were dating. We took a lot of drives together when we were dating. We worked on a lot of projects together when we were dating. And I find now that we're married and I just constantly feel like there's more in my day than I can do. And we have more going on that I can keep up with. And we have a toddler running around that we're trying to juggle. It's just that much more important for me to stop and really ask myself, have I done anything special with my husband lately that he enjoys? Have I went on a dirt bike ride with him? Have I been willing to take the time out of my day to go to the dump with him? Whatever it is, to help him with a project. You know, I think sometimes it's easy to wonder, why do people fall out of love after they get married? But look at it. Everything we did together, the way we interacted with each other, the way we smiled at each other, the things we did, so many people stop doing after you're married, and then you wonder why your marriage isn't thriving. And I think these little things are super important. So I challenge you as well to ask yourself, you know, what did we do when we were dating that my husband really enjoyed? That maybe in a creative way, maybe we can hire a babysitter once every couple of weeks. Maybe we can do something while my daughter's napping. It's easy for me to sometimes think as a wife and as a busy mom that these things aren't as important to my husband as they actually are, because they're maybe not something I need so much myself. Number 3, you don't always have to be talking. This is so hard for me sometimes, but this has been so eye-opening. So to give you a practical little example, sometimes my husband will come home after a really long day working super hard and we'll eat dinner together. Maybe he'll help me pick up the kitchen a little bit or whatever, and then he'll sit down on the sofa and maybe he'll pull out a book, or he'll start playing his guitar, or maybe he'll be just scrolling his phone looking on Marketplace, and he'll be like, hey, you should come sit by me. And in my brain, I'm thinking, are you kidding? I have to finish the kitchen. I've got to put in another load of laundry. I have all this stuff I have to get done before tomorrow. I have to put our daughter down to bed. Why would I sit down on the sofa when you're obviously distracted and we're not going to talk anyway? And it wasn't until I read this book that I realized how important it is sometimes for our husbands, for us to just be willing to set other things aside, to prioritize them, and to just be with them. Not necessarily talking. And yet, this has been really eye-opening to me, and I've realized how often I have kind of ignored my husband or prioritized other things over top of him merely because I didn't realize this was something important to him, because it's not really that important to me, I guess, if we're not going to talk. And so I just want to share this to encourage you as well, that sometimes when your husband asks you, hey, you should come along to the store with me, or hey, you should sit on the sofa with me, or hey, we should take a bath together, and not do tons and tons of talking or feel like I'm being interrogated, maybe to take him up on some of those things. Because I do think eventually, what if my husband gives up? Eventually, what if he decides, you know what, she's never sat with me before, she's never come on a drive with me before, I'll just stop asking. And I have missed all these opportunities to connect with him and love him in this way. Another little benefit, though, that I have noticed is that some of the deepest, best, richest conversations my husband and I have ever had been not when I'm drilling him with questions, not when I'm interrogating him or trying to draw things out of him, but when I've just kind of sacrificed and done something with him that I wasn't necessarily thrilled to do. And yet from that, he suddenly opens up in this way that he doesn't open up if I'm just sitting there like, why aren't you saying anything? And so for an example, one time we went on this hunting trip and I was not thrilled to go. We spent all day wandering around out in the freezing cold trying to hunt, didn't catch anything. We got in the truck to go home and it had just felt like, that was kind of, I don't know, in my mind, kind of a waste. And I remember though, Danny just started talking and just talking about all this deep stuff. And it was so special and it was such a reward, and it wasn't anything I had forced. And so I think there are a ton of benefits we receive in just being our husband's buddy, tagging along with him and doing stuff with him, and not constantly trying to force those conversations when maybe he just wants our company. To wrap this whole idea up, I wanted to share this little quote that I heard that I really, really loved and I've thought about a lot. And it said something like, do you want to be your husband's mother or do you want to be your husband's girlfriend? And what does a mother do? A mother nurtures, a mother takes care of, a mother disciplines, a mother corrects. These are proper roles as a mom, but they're not so fun to constantly do for your husband. And I know at the end of my day, I would so much rather be thought of by my husband as someone fun and exciting who still admires and looks up to and is proud of him and smiles at him in an adoring way than be a mother to him. And so I think a huge way that we can be our husband's girlfriend in a sense is to be his buddy, to be his friend, to do things with him, to smile at him often. And so that's kind of what I wanted to share today. These are just some practical little things that I have done that I've been really trying to get in a habit of until they feel natural, and they're something that I no longer have to really think about and put a ton of intention into, because I think these things are incredibly important, and I'm just realizing how important they actually are to men. And so I hope this video encouraged you. I hope it gave you maybe a little bit of advice. These things have been really helpful for myself. And so hopefully I'll see you next weekend with my third marriage video, which I'm really excited about as well. Super excited about this series. It's been so fun to make. So thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you hopefully next week. Bye, ladies.